Kent, do you want me to turn the floor over to you, or do you want me to kick things off?
However you want to do it.
What's that?
However you want to do it.
I'm good either way. Obviously, public hearing is officially commenced regarding the blight grant, which you've noticed you should have provided by K.I.S.S Consulting, the project focus area that's outlined in red. And then the specific properties themselves are highlighted in red. And I don't know if either one of you want to speak.
Yeah, let me go through my agenda here and then I'll open it up for comment. We'll take that off right now. If you don't know, you're applying for a Ochre grant this coming around. The proposals are due at the end of this month. And there's a lot of scuttlebutt and stuff going on out there that we're supposed to find out about this week. But after talking to Monty and Chad, I think you have a plan which will help us greatly. So, is everybody familiar with the buildings that we're tearing down? Okay. Or hoping to.
Maybe mention them anyway, since we're going to be recording. This is recorded.
Okay. Well, 309 Pearl here, the old police department yard, and actually it comes out onto North Columbia too. There's two different addresses there. 228 West Oak, 338 West Oak, 333 West Oak, 339 West Oak, and what's the other one up there, Monty?
328.
No, where the gas station is and the building beside it.
Oh, 325, 339.
228, 334, 339. Yeah, 115 is, and 309 for the Sun's building there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he has, I did my ER a little different.
That's K.I.S.S.
On this one, yeah. Okay, so those are the buildings we're doing.
It kind of sticks out this way. I didn't realize that.
The project budget, the total project cost is $556,000. The Ochre grant portion is $500,000 with $56,000 coming from local match. The grant proposal is due April 29th, which is coming upon us here. We will have to have a second public hearing at one of your council meetings before the full application goes in. This is just a proposal, just to let Ochre know that you're coming in. The full grant application is due June 25th. Now, something else Ochre has told us around is if you don't have a complete proposal, they may not ask you to come in for the full application. So if that happens, you're gonna have to make some phone calls, because they've never done that. This is just so. We'll know down the road.
What would constitute an incomplete proposal?
No guidelines on
That's
it.
the question. That's the problem. Yeah.
They've never done it before.
Okay.
And I don't know if somebody was mad at some grant administrator because they didn't put enough in a proposal or what. So if you can figure them out, let me know. So I know.
It might not be a real complication for us because we
Yes.
may have always, but maybe somebody's throwing rather abstract projects at them that they're trying to get away from.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just guessing.
But they're Ochre's having a webinar this week on all this stuff that's come up with it. There's a duplication of benefits that they're concerned about and with the stimulus money. I don't know how it can be a duplication because the stimulus money is not even HUD money. it's coming from the U.S. Treasury, so. But they have a recorded webinar this week, so we should know more of what's going on this week. For all this stuff to happen before the proposal goes in, it's ridiculous. So, I don't know if I said the grant application, full application goes in June 25th, with award announcements August 12th. They have told us that they may reduce your award amount depending on what goes on with your stimulus funds. That's all I know. They haven't come out with anything. Hopefully we'll find out this week. Letters of support, I think I got 10 of them here today. Dave, you want to talk about the scope of work?
Yeah. Hi. Dave K.I.S.S, Consulting Group. So we'll be doing all these, we'll be taking a look at all these properties, and these properties either have lead paint, asbestos, and black mold. Matter of fact, the old Hart building, I had a nice flight down the steps into the basement. And
Which one's that?
it was about, I don't know, 35 degrees out.
It was full of water too.
It was full of water,
Yeah.
and I haven't been back in since. So yeah. I'm all about preservation with regard to historic preservation, but these buildings are past any saving. It costs you 8 times more to save them than it would be to tear them down. So we think that this is a very logical thing to do from a standpoint of demolition activities. I know we're kind of in an interesting position here in the city that we're saving some buildings, which we're hopefully we'll have some other announcements on funds soon for the Vision Corner. We're continuously applying for that. I remember it was about a year ago that we bought it, remember, and we said we'd come back and start getting funds. Well, we just put in for more money for that, so hopefully we'll get some other grants from the federal government. But anyway, with regard to this, we're trying for the Cdbg program and community development block grants, and so the scope is to tear those down and then to have a blank site, basically ready for redevelopment activities. Okay, there's going to be once we'll have to do some environmental abatement of hazardous activities that are in the building. Those can be a little tricky. There's also basements. Those are fun. With coal chutes, makes it even more fun. So we've got site restoration activities, and so we got site abatement, site restoration activities to make sure it's a clean site for redevelopment. So you'll have some blank slates to do some redevelopment. And I think Union City deserves that and is ready for that as well. So
Think there's any vaults out there?
well, yeah, there's probably a couple.
I'd like to take care of that
Yeah.
in the grant if
Yeah.
I can.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we saw out there with restoration activities. We'll be taking some of those vaults out as well, so anyway, that'll be good. There's actually one thing that's worth saving is the building over here has the old jail in the bottom. Have you guys seen, how cool is that? And the last time I saw one of those, this is kind of down a rabbit hole a little bit. Last time I saw one of those was I was down in a place called Seymour, Indiana, and they showed the old Reno Brothers jail, right? And it looked just like that. So I wonder if that thing's from the 1860s or not. So,
The old police department here?
yeah, down
I
the
was
old
in
police.
that building, I didn't see it.
It's downstairs,
Oh,
and I still got the cut on my head to show. But anyway, if you guys want to check out something cool, it's down there in the bottom of it. So anyway, that's worth saving, and at least save the door, or maybe get your picture taken, or something. I don't know.
Well, Monty said they wanted to save the men and women on the outside of the stone.
Oh yeah, there you go. So there's some things in the facade work to save, and reutilize those later. And that was a big activity in downtown when they did Circle Center in Indianapolis. They did some facade improvements. So if there's some cool features like that, it might be good to reutilize those on a building later on that's been saved. So there's always those type of redevelopment activities as well. So it's an exciting project, and I think it's a needed project. We certainly want to make sure that we save the historic buildings that are worth saving, and then demolish those ones that are really a problem to the health, safety, and welfare of the community is really what this project is about. So,
These are,
yeah, they're in pretty sad shape, so.
I don't know what SHPO's gonna say, but
That'll be, yeah, SHPO will be anyway, yeah.
I'm just moving right on like it's gonna be okay, and
There you go. And if not, we'll take care of that. We'll take care of that too. So, anyway, okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions from the council or the audience?
yeah, I really need a few comments for the
Yeah.
minutes, so.
I will offer up my own personal comments. I know, as Dave and you alluded to, Kent, our mission is to preserve everything we can downtown. That is always first and foremost our mission, and I think it's evident from the buildings we've been working on downtown and the Vision Corner project and you name it, and our support of other projects like down on the corner of Oak and Columbia, you know, that we've supported as a council. However, this is also a reminder of how important it is that we are stewards of our properties, of our houses, and our buildings, and when we don't take care of them, this is the path we have to go down. And it's a sobering path. Because I would love to have these buildings in pristine condition and housing commercial operations that are generating tax revenue that are supporting this community so we all get along, or we all get ahead further. That's not the case. We've got buildings that are in dilapidated condition. Black mold is putting it mildly. Water in basement is putting it mildly. The building down there on Oak Street has over 3-4 feet of water in the basement. 3 or 4, not 3 or 4 inches, 3 or 4 feet.
Oh, no, it's feet. It's
Yeah.
over my knee, yeah.
So that's the problem is anybody listening in the general audience, our mission is number one to preserve what we have and take care of what we have. We're beyond that juncture with this. And so we do have backfill plans for these properties and for economic growth. That is very important. We don't want vacant lots. That's not the objective of this endeavor. The objective of this endeavor is Dave eloquently put it, is to preserve and protect, but where properties represent a detriment to our health and to our safety, then this is the course of action we are required to take. And this is why we also have ordinances on the books that we're constantly having to address, because it's out of protection for all of us as a community. If anybody thinks we like being the police of our ordinances, we don't. We're forced to, because if we don't, this is the juncture we find ourselves at, where buildings are falling down around us, or us having to take them down. So this is an important endeavor on many levels. And so that's why it is so crucial that we have Okra's backing in this initiative and that we have their support, because it is absolutely, positively fundamental for the further development of this downtown and for this community and for the safety of its citizens. Thank you.
Okay, good. Anybody want to add? Oh,
Yeah, well, first of all, I will say that, Ryan Brinke, City Attorney, 215 West Hickory Street, 309 West Oak Street. I will say that I've not been in every building that is on this list, but I have been in several of them. And I know that the one down the street from my office on Oak Street used to have the electronics. I had a chance to be in that building. It's probably been 5 years ago now, but at that time, I know there were large holes in the roof, and it was raining in whenever, and the only thing, there was a trash can to catch the water, and if sometime, and the owner wasn't, I mean, he had, unfortunately there was a mortgage foreclosure, he was no longer dealing with it. And I know that I believe that you can see that there are trees and plants growing up from the, so I mean, you're right, and it's something that needs to be, it needs to be demolished. I don't see, but again, I would also echo what the mayor said, is that we do have ordinances in place, and we have our enforcement of those, which I know that they work very hard, and that's why our police, our ordinance officer work very hard to enforce those, so we don't run into these situations, because it's horrible, it's sad. I mean, so we're losing, when we lose that building, we're losing probably, 10 apartments and some downstairs office space. So we do have these ordinances in place, and I know that the council, they're also working hard to, along with myself, to even make these ordinances a little more strict as far as time constraints, so we don't have, a month going by between someone being cited and then some sort of action being taken. And we don't do it because the city wants to collect citation money. Do it because we just want people to clean up their properties and be a good neighbor. So,
Absolutely.
Good. Thank you, Ryan.
Question, what are some of the ideas or initiatives that we're thinking of to actually happen after the buildings are
We have, great question. We have a minority business owner in the community who runs one of the most successful restaurants in the region, not just the community, in the region. And she has already architecture prints for a new build on the corner down there on their property. But it also entails, it's a brick and stone facade, so it would match, complement the existing buildings downtown. But also it has designs for a drive-through, because it'd be a chicken and rice bistro restaurant, something that this community does not have, so it would be another, diverse mix to the community's offerings. And with the drive-through, that's not possible with this dilapidated structure sitting behind it, nor would anybody in the right mind want to build a brand new building with that dilapidated structure sitting behind it. So this will actually create an opportunity for economic growth downtown, because obviously there is no business in this building that we're discussing.
Yeah.
That's one property.
What building is that?
The one on Oak Street, that would be
228.
228, yeah, thank you. And then here on the corner, we actually have, and this is going to sound a bit of an eccentric route to take, but it's follow me here. We've had local businessmen express interest in having an office on the corner up here, and actually in a train car, a restored train car. And if anybody knows anything about Union City, we exist because of the rail industry. That's how we came into existence. And we've actually scouted several cars in the region, and we've spotted a few that are possibilities. No decisions obviously been made, but we've got a couple rail car possibilities to put on tracks up here on the corner that would be restored and actually be commercial office space. And then in the background on the side of the building, which is this building, the council building, and the storefront next to it, on the side of it, once it would be exposed, there would be a mural that would be up there. There would be a mural complementary to the rail industry, complementary to the rail life in this community, the genesis of Union City, if you will, that will actually play with the rail cars in a three-dimensional effect and create like a scene, if you will, a three-dimensional scene that will, number one, be economic vitality for the corner, because it actually will be a business there, but number two, will also enhance it aesthetically. Number three, it'll be much cheaper to get something in there instead of trying to entertain yet another new construction. Because you see when these structures, when they go down, we're not always blessed with a chicken and rice bistro in its place. But it also would fit right in line with Artisan Crossing and the move of our rail tower, which is commencing this summer. And then across the street from it is the historic railroad depot. So you've got a theme developed here on this whole block. And so people come to town, it's like, okay, yeah, I get this. I see exactly what's going on here. It's definitely thematic. And then the other structure up in the corner, which is the former A&P, we do not have something definitive in place for that. We've got ideas, working concepts, because the building owner across the street has designs on parking, because he states there needs to be more parking because of the backstage lofts, and that project with all the citizens will be staying there, and then the expanding businesses downtown, including group therapy, expanded business or parking for them, and then parking on the backside of Brute's restaurant and the coffee shop. So we've got and then the chicken and rice bistro too, you know, we've got possibilities here for needed parking, which is an awesome problem to have, because we haven't had that problem in this community for a long time. And so that is one concept that's being bantered about. He actually has interest in this property, and he would be the one putting in the parking if he would indeed go that avenue. So that's one possibility, but we don't have any, that's not nearly as concrete as the other two. But good question.
So
Oh,
what
also,
building was the A&P in?
That's Hart Building, yeah, sorry, that's what you get when you get in a small town, it's what it used to be.
and actually, at one time, there was an A&P and a Kroger.
Kroger, yes,
At
yes.
the same time.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Same building?
Yes, yes. Uh-huh. One on the east, one on the west, yeah. Tim Heiss, 230 South Columbia. One of the things that I had on that property also is the city actually owns the lot behind that to the south of that, so that's actually a little bit bigger footprint once you put together that lot that used to be a residential lot behind. And so there's probably pretty good concept of access through to Fletcher Avenue and so forth with parking, and people can flow without being out all the way on Oak Street in Columbia.
That's a good point.
But I look at the 228 is the last remaining building on Oak, and that with the buildings that have been demolished on the east end of that, and then with the after the fire with the flower shop being demolished to the west end of that. So it's just one lone building. So it'll complete that clean sweep of that area. So that makes it more advantageous to build. And I think this here on Columbia and Pearl will open up the space to a much more usable, buildable space, since the building on the corner was already demolished. Now we have this naked corner, but then just nothing, you know, it doesn't really fit very well to do anything with. So like all those locations are going to open some opportunities.
Absolutely.
The one on the corner here is where you said the railroad cars?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what's designed for that, so.
So it's really gonna, and I think one of the things that can, one of the problems that happens is that these dilapidated buildings become an albatross for the rest of the downtown and the rest of the business and hold up development. But you know, one thing I'll add too is that this is all a result of blight from, you know, economic blight for the most part, and that we can write ordinances all day long, but until the means are there for people to do the maintenance they need. The Hart Building, for example, sat there for years that no one would have known what kind of condition it was in other than the roof was dilapidated. And I know personally that the back wall of that building's been pulled away from the roof for a number of years and was really in danger of collapsing out. So that can happen, and we don't have, and you know, people say, well, enforce the ordinances. Well, if it's secure and clean and sound on the exterior, we don't really have an ordinance that allows us to climb up on the roof and inspect to see whether the roof is sound or not. So it's really difficult to, ordinances don't necessarily do that.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. Anybody else? Those were good. Great. Donna's gonna love that.
I also think the building on the north side of Oak, across from the Hart Building, is a narrow enough building that when that's gone, it doesn't really leave anything but a nice usable space there. It's not going to create a hole where a lot of times when we lose these buildings, we get these, you know, bad holes that look like a tooth out. I don't think that one's going to have that effect so badly the way that's all configured in there. It may just make a nice buffer space between the two other structures. So
We got
I
plenty
think
of
that was a nice fit.
They're at 228. That's the only building left right there.
Yeah, and with that one gone, that just opens that whole corner block up to expand that whole project.
Yeah,
And I think it's going to all flow a lot better.
exactly.
It makes that a
Plus
much
you
better
got a
project.
pocket park right across the street from it.
Right.
So, okay. Anybody else? Okay. The only thing Need to pass a resolution.
Yeah, and we have that on the docket. So I will go ahead with no further comments or questions. I will close the first public hearing at 6:26. And then we will start the next public hearing for additional appropriations. Jan?
Okay, this is a public hearing on additional appropriations for our park and recreation fund, because when we decided to do these repairs, the budget was already done last year, so we're gonna have to do an additional appropriation in order to be able to do these. This is the $9,300 for the approved repair of the baseball diamonds, the panel, the electric panel of the baseball diamonds. There's about $5,000 worth of repair for the cement work at the pool for the new dive blocks. And then the dive blocks themselves were $19,265. And then repair on the tennis courts is $25,300, which comes to $54,365. So, know if there's any questions from people in the audience about the additional appropriations?
Do we need to move or anything on that?
The resolution's later.
Yeah.
This is for any of the public to express their opinion on the additional appropriation.
If there are no comments or questions, I would.
I do have a question. So, nothing has been done on the tennis courts, right?
That included
Yeah,
the
it's
title.
slated,
Okay.
when scheduled, and it was approved to spend that money last year.
Okay.
Any other? If not, I will hereby close the public hearing at 6:28. At this time, would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the prayer. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the blessing of this evening. We just thank you for each and every individual here, not just at this meeting, but in this community. We're blessed beyond measure. And may we be mindful of this day, the kind of day this was, and how your hand is always at work. This day started cloudy, this day started chilly, this day started rainy, very dreary. And we come into this meeting and the skies are opening up, the blue sky is showing, the sun is shining, the temperatures are warmer. It's a reminder that you're always there, you're always at work, and there are always better times ahead, despite the things that we go through in this community or the things that we go through in our own lives. We thank you for that. We thank you for how faithful you are. We pray for your guidance. We pray for your wisdom to help all these decisions that we're making tonight and all the things that we discuss, to help them be truly in the best interest of this entire community, not just for today or for tomorrow, but for 10 and 20 and 40 years down the road. Pray for your hand of blessing upon them. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Jan, if you would, roll call.
Brandon Elmore,
Present.
Bob Leahy,
Here.
Nathan Conklin,
Present.
Tim Heiss.
Here.
Peter Frias.
Here.
All right. I trust everyone's had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. If there are any questions or comments, if not, I would entertain a motion for acceptance.
Go ahead.
Well, I had a question.
Go for it.
Imagine that. The paint purchase for the Vision Corner.
Yep, good question. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
Steve, did you want to address that? Sorry. Well, I did for you.
I'm answering a question from television.
Okay, you're the kid in the back of the class, like, oh crap. No, the paint. Frank Miller, we actually purchased the paint because we were able to get a better deal through our
Okay.
contract pricing with
Correct.
Sherwin-Williams.
We purchased it through, and we will be invoicing Frank Miller for
Okay.
the cost of the paint. I
And
just
that-
haven't-
And they'll pay every last penny,
That pretty much
So,
answers
but that's a
that.
great question. I'm glad you brought that up because actually I was going to say something about it and I forgot.
I'm going back to answering the question.
I have one more.
Shoot.
The dead trees in South Columbia and Vine,
Yes.
are those on, is that on city property or is that on person, is it personal property?
It's in the right of way, so I researched that for a long, cause those trees been keeping me up at night, 'cause I'm afraid they're gonna, they're like 80 foot
Ooh.
and just dead as they could be. So, yeah, I did research on that and talked to a lot of folks on the municipal managers system, and they said if it's in the right of way, it's ours to deal with.
Okay.
As much as I hate that.
It
And
seems,
the additional problem with that is that's an abandoned property down there, so it's like,
it seemed relatively expensive to me.
yes, they are,
For-
yeah, but
I did,
Taking
knowing
those
this, not
down.
knowing the size, you know,
Yeah.
of the operation, but
it was pretty dangerous taking those down too and close the street off. It was, taking the tops out of those, when the branch cut, they just explode when they hit the ground, cause they're just that dead.
okay. Okay, thank you, that's all I have.
No, good questions.
After those clarifications, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
First and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Consent agenda approved as presented. The department reports, just to give a heads up, we do have some ordinance violations that are in process on Hickory Street, Carter Street, and State Line, among others. We're following due process, and those will, already are in the process of ending up in court. So, I don't want to sound flippant or crass, but we mean what we say and we say what we mean with these ordinances. And it's important for people to take the utmost care of their properties, because you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the community. You're doing it for your neighbors. As I think our city attorney mentioned, just respect the neighbor or love thy neighbor, either way is appropriate. And so I just want to give you an update on that. If anybody's wondering, in certain properties down in those streets, we're moving forward. Rail tower, we have a tentative, and I can't stress enough, tentative date of June 19th that we keep going back to in our discussions and all the different moving parts of this process between AEP, CenturyLink, CSX, NDOT, the Department of Treasury, however they got involved, and then so many of these other entities. And I do need to clarify, Department of Treasury is not involved because of the fiscal part of this. They're involved because of the
road permit.
The road permits. So follow that one if you
I thought
can.
maybe they want to pay for it.
But yeah, I know. I had the same one thing.
We're just sending them the bill since they want to, get involved.
Yeah, well, exactly. They saw how much we raised. They thought they'd
Worth a
stick
try.
their nose in it. But yeah, there's a lot, as you can imagine, there's a lot of moving parts. But June 19th is what we're trying to gravitate toward, to have a benchmark or a goal, if you will, so we can try to land as near as possible on that date. Once we have confirmation, believe you me, we will be broadcasting it from the hilltops. Then I will address Vision Corner later, so we'll move forward with department heads. No, Jan, do you have anything? No. Council members, Keto, let's start with you.
I don't have anything right
No problem. Tim?
I don't really have anything other than nothing real. We don't have very much business at Board of Works, but we'll fill the council in that the first of the new cameras being installed in the police cars at this point. The first one's in process, and so they're working through the process with the new cameras, both in the cars and the body cams.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
Kobe kind of gave us a little briefing on how the body cams work, and one of the things that's I don't think we really had clear before, but one of the enhanced aspects of the new body cams is that they download to the car, and basically come down. The body cam will download to the cruiser, and then that goes to basically a memory stick, and it records all the hours of the shift. So even if the officer forgets to push the button and turn his camera on, it's still recording, so that there's no case of if it's easier if the officer hits the button, then it's easier to find it. You don't have to go searching through hours of video. But it is recorded, so there's not gonna be an instance of, well, the officer forgot to hit the button, and so we don't have this on camera. And, so there's even, if we did some other upgrading, we could even have it to where when the police car pulls on station, it downloads directly from the car with, through Wi-Fi. But at this point, we're not there, but, and I don't think it's critical I don't think we're losing anything by not being there. But, really think it's gonna be a nice system with both the car cameras and the body cams, and the fact that they're integrated.
That's excellent.
And the car cameras have more than one view. Also, I think there's at least 3 different cameras in that.
That's excellent. And sadly, we're reminded just here recently again of how important it is to have those for the protection of our own officers and for the community.
Yeah, it's everybody's
yes,
protection.
Exactly. So,
And just so you guys are clear, the footage of those are, I mean, literally, no joke, it's reviewed every single morning, first thing they do. And the officers receive immediate feedback and performance evaluation based on their engagement with the public and, basically what happened. So
you know what?
It's not a protection tool as much as it almost is a training tool to make us better.
That's an excellent point.
That's impressive because you gotta think about it. There's not too many jobs where somebody's recorded 24/7 and then given feedback the next day about everything they did, said, you name it. So it's pretty intense.
And I think that's a tool, Monty could probably tell you many stories about various complaints and concerns about officers' actions and things that happen. And sometimes, and Monty and I had a discussion years ago about it, and we were talking about some circumstances, and the Monty's words were, well, it wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. Yeah. and those are the kind of things that will be reviewed that on a regular basis that like Steve says, gives an opportunity to train away some of the issues before they become issues. So it's just a great tool.
Thanks for sharing. Nate, anything?
Yeah, I've got a couple things. The first thing that I'm gonna say until every single council meeting is community cleanup. First date is Saturday, May 22nd. I don't think we've put a time on that.
Good point.
I'm gonna put one on it right now. 10 a.m. Come to the community room. Actually, the community room will be open, and we're gonna shoot from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I'm just making those up as I fly here. So 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then as we get closer to the next date, we'll throw them out. But come to the community room if you are ready, willing, able to just come help. I think the first one in my mind, we should focus downtown and the surrounding blocks. And then for the second one, we'll set a different area location in town. But that way, as we go into spring, summer, and all of our fun activities we've got downtown, we'll just make sure everything's clean, trash picked up, whatever. Come to the community room. We'll have a breakout of where you're going next.
Awesome.
Item 2, Child Advocacy Group Board met, and I hate to share these, but I'm glad to share that we now have an easier way to kind of hear about it. They have a lot of things happening. They're going to be starting to do some golf outings and 5Ks and things like that. But the thing that comes important to me is what we as a community put money towards for the Child Advocacy Group. CAC is what they call it for short. Is there were 31 cases year to date that went through the interview process. Instead of a child having to be interviewed 4, 5, 6 different times, they sat in one room with a trained interviewer. Everybody else, police, attorney, whatever else, family, were in the other room, not influencing the situation. The interviewer got everything on tape, so then now if there is a case to move forward, all of that goes smoother through the court system, and a child or elderly person does not have to go through this multiple different times. So there are some opportunities for people within the county, reporters, whether it's fire, EMS, police departments are going to be reached out to by Mallory Stevenson. who's in charge of the child advocacy group. Also, if anybody's church group wants to be a part of it, I think maybe we brought Mary Mallory in to have us do a condensed session for us one time. Basically, there's a lot of things that go unnoticed with children that we could be more aware of. And this is one of those where they would rather have over communication. I know as bad as it sounds in the world that we live in, but they would rather have over communication that maybe I suspect something's going on than nothing at all, because that child may need to be better taken care of. So I didn't think a lot about this till my wife became a teacher and did a lot of this stuff. So now my eyes have been opened a lot. So I think it's important that we help protect our youth so that hopefully in the next 30, 40, 50 years, this pool of children shrinks and shrinks and shrinks and hopefully disappears, because it is a reoccurring event typically that is passed on. So on to today. Today was an interesting day. Steve and I went to Rushville to see their housing addition. They had similar thoughts and aspirations to what we wanted to do. They ended up they were landlocked by farmers that had 150, 200-year-old farms. They got lucky and talked to somebody right as they were selling before it officially went to market. Bought 40 acres. They did sell 6 acres to an apartment builder who built so far 3 buildings, 8 units each. Crazy enough, they were $1,000 or $1,100 a month rent. Their first day of being able to rent them was April 1st. They are full at capacity, deposits paid.
Each apartment was 1,100 square feet with all high-end appliances and high-end finishes also. They're not a typical apartment.
Yeah, they're a big apartment. And so they're all accounted for, and they have the plans to build 4 more with a waiting list of 35 people on it. Everybody in the community said, "You're an idiot, this is never going to happen." April 1st, they said that the list was full and they had 35 people, and they laughed and said, "Good April Fool's joke," and they said, "No, April 2nd, this is still the same data." So, they're all booked, everybody's very happy and excited. So that was 6 of the 40 acres. Now they have 34 acres that are plotted to have 60 homes. It does have 5 detention ponds and roadway, and they are working to have that. Honestly, it's big dirt piles and gravel roads. They're not there yet, but they're getting the water, the sewer lines put into where the properties are going to be, and they have a council member getting ready to build on one lot and another community member building on another lot as soon as you get in. They have it broken down into 3 phases. Phase 1 is town homes, nicer mid-size homes. Phase 2 is middle income, mid-size homes, and then the last area is going to be estates, where they're saying they would be 3/4 of an acre, big properties, several $100,000. But phase 1 and 2 is already plotted out, paid for, and there's a plan in place that with through bonds and tips, and it's a big confusing situation. I have a better grasp on it, but I need a pen and paper to draw it all out for you. They helped explain a tremendous amount, and they said that a lot of people said to them, "You guys are crazy for even thinking about doing this," but it's already paying off because of the apartments. And everybody's like, "Well, Rushville's huge." Rushville's 6,000 people.
Right, it's not huge.
I mean, it's not much bigger than Union City. It's as big as Union City, Indiana, and Ohio combined. They have a lot of similar things. They've got some houses that need to be taken care of. They've got ordinance problems. They've got all kinds of things. But ultimately, they keep pushing forward. They've won some grants and money through Okra, but ultimately, they just keep pushing and keep looking for resources. It's a lot of cool things are happening there, and I think Steve and I had a great meeting with them. We're now in turn they're going to come up here in the next couple weeks, and we'll show them around town and show them what we've got going on. So
Great.
I think that is everything I had. Go ahead, Bob.
Bob?
There was no petitions for the month of April for the Area Planning Commission. There will be no meeting this month,
Okay,
and that's all I've got.
no problem. Brandon?
Just a couple quick things from Randolph County Solid Waste Management. They're saying pollution solution is open, but it's kind of slow so far. So keep that in mind as we do community cleanup or what have you. That take any sort of hazardous waste or what have you over to pollution solution. We do have a community paper shred scheduled for April 24th over at Orchlands. It is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. over there. So keep that in mind. And then I wanted to bring up, I had a conversation with a citizen regarding her municipal utility bill, and wanted to bring up, I guess, she was asking me to explain her bill to her, and I was like, and it was my fault because I didn't fully understand it myself. I'm in control of the finances in my house, and I'm usually pretty good at knowing where my money goes and what have you, and I didn't know how things were calculated and how things were were factored into the bill or what have you. I just paid it each month. So it really helped me open my eyes to understand how the bill was calculated in terms of you have a reading between the 15th and the 15th of each month. You're basically looking at the usage of the water between that period of time, and for each 750 gallons of water used, you basically are given a unit of measurement that then is factored into a table that then basically spits out what your monthly bill is. And this individual, this citizen, I think she was trying to be a very conscientious consumer of her resources. She was thinking about actually turning off her toilet just to make sure at the spigot down below her to make sure that she didn't have a running toilet or anything like that. She was talking about possibly going to the laundromat to use water there instead of at her home to try to tamp down her utility bill. And she just couldn't get below a certain point, and come to find out there is a minimum bill that you're going to have, even with zero zero consumption for the month. You're basically going to have a minimum of $70.49 each month. So I think that understanding for me was eye-opening as well to see what goes into the bill in terms of the water tax, the sewage, the trash, the stormwater. It's based on those units of consumption. So I took that back to her, and I think she really had a better understanding of it as well. And I would ask that maybe we could include that maybe once a year, that table, or maybe the first 10 units, because it's pretty extensive in terms of what have you, so that folks could see that on the back of the water bill or what have you, maybe a small block for those first 10 units, and maybe any time that we have units or have rates change, that could go out and people could see that and understand that what goes into how their bill is calculated. So
do we have it in the system when the next rate increase does go into effect next year, Jan?
In the system?
Do we have anything that triggers like on Outlook or anything of that nature? I don't think we do we?
No, it'll go into effect next February's, next March 1st bill, because it's the first, it'll be January 15th, February 15th's bill.
Yeah, maybe we could put something in our Outlook for February 1st, just to put on the back of the water bill, the table.
Okay.
And that way we'll just send that out, and that way that'll address the next one around, because I think that's a pretty good idea. Just so at least they have that knowledge. Appreciate you handling that.
Yeah, sure.
Citizens. Anything else?
No, that was all I had.
Right.
Thank you.
No presenters on the agenda. Old business, kind of piggybacking on what Nate mentioned earlier. Plum Street Housing Development. We do have Mr. Bruns here with us this evening, and one thing needs to be made known in conjunction with this conversation is that in new business you will see Ordinance 2021-05, which is the ordinance to establish the ARP Fund, which is the American Relief Plan, I believe is the acronym. That is $700,000+ that's coming into Union City coffers through the stimulus. And we, again, as we started this meeting, it's our job to be good stewards of our money. And one thing that was discussed before we took our positions as mayor and as council, a lot of us canvassed the community, door to door, in fact. And the one thing we kept hearing again and again and again was housing, 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 housing. You gotta do something about housing. We need better housing. We need nicer housing. We need more housing. Housing was always a consistent thread. And so with how these ARP funds are being set up, you know, we still have a little bit more detail to glean. But what we do know from the surface standpoint or top level is that it needs to go toward infrastructure. And so infrastructure being water, sewage, you name it. And so the stars seem to be aligned in terms of the housing shortage in Randolph County and the state of Indiana for that matter. The housing shortage here in the community, the fact that the community owns significant amount of acreage to do something with, and the fact that we already have preliminary plans to look at to do something with, and now we have funds coming in from an infrastructure standpoint to do something with. So it's almost like, I feel like we've got a big red truck sitting in front of us. You know, there's somebody short of a billboard being posted up in front of our homes of maybe the direction we should be heading. So with that being said, I will, Mike, I I apologize, I didn't ask you if you wanted to say anything or to address your proposal that you would have here.
I mean, I did pass it out to everybody. I can explain it if you want me to, or from a high level, or answer any questions.
And this is for, again, this is for the Plum Street housing development.
This is for the 55 acres on that tract. The first couple sections of it, the preliminary design phase, that will be for the entire tract, laying out the entire tract, bringing it to regional planning and the county surveyor for approval from them. That way we laid everything out from a utility standpoint, a zoning standpoint, to get the full approval. The variance phase, the reason for the variance phase is you've got a wind turbine out there that the county decided is considered commercial. Commercial requires a 1,000-foot setback from that wind turbine to any residential property, which is an ordinance on the books that was placed after that was installed. So we would have to ask for a variance if we're going to put any houses closer than that, which we would need to, because that's going to take about a third of that property up. The topographic survey would be the survey phase that we would do on the entire tract. Once again, we would lay out the preliminary, do the topo, and do all the utility lines for the entire tract at one time. So as we move on to certain phases, we make sure that everything is thought out and works together. And then you get into the final plat, which is actually that, and that is just for phase one. So it would be that first 20 to 25 lots that we've developed. And then the final design, which would be the design of all the utilities, all the connections, the street design, the profiles, the plans, all of that would also be for phase one. So that would get you to a point where you would have an overall approved plan for the entire parcel, and then you would have approval for design drawings for phase one.
And working with Mike, we'll be able to get to know the number that Baker Tilly needs us to get to hit the break-even point on the TIF district. We can't say for certain it's going to be 68 lots until we have this done. So we can't really even look at knowing the right number or the exact size of each lot until we know how many lots we need to have. And then this will give us the foundation for the layout for the roads. And then we can then have a bid on the roads to tell us it's going to be $850,000 to put in 1.2 miles worth of roads. I don't know roughly, but using exaggerations here, but we have to have this in order to move forward. Whether we move forward in July of this year or July of 2062, all this paperwork will then be done. It would just need to be updated, of course. But this gives us the groundwork. This is where I had a previous conversation with Rushville. They said this is exactly what they had to do before they even took a shovel out there, just to have an idea of where it's got to go. And if we don't want to move forward and potentially bringing houses to our community, then we don't even look at this. In my opinion, I think we need to strongly do this.
I agree.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Bruns?
Thank you.
If not, I would.
I do have
Yes, go ahead.
How does this differ from what we saw the last couple meetings? You know, we had a sort of like a
Previous,
proposal.
what was proposed to us, or it was estimates. You know, if you
The
want to
original
do that.
discussion that I had, we were under the discussion that somebody else would be doing design, you'd have a developer do that, And then we would assist you in reviewing it to make sure it meets your codes and your ordinances.
Okay.
I think after some discussion and after several concept plans came to you guys realized that that wasn't really the best approach because you didn't have as much say as you wanted into it. Yes, they had to meet your ordinances, but their lot sizes, all that was their decision. I think the decision later on was we want a little more control on that. We want these lots to be the way we want them to be to make a nice development. And instead of having somebody else design it and you just accept it, I think you decided to take a better approach and make sure that you're kind of the driver's seat to lay it out the way you want it.
And so this is that next step that.
Yep.
And this involves
This
a little bit of
would be the
engineering.
next step for anybody that wanted to look at this parcel.
Somebody would have to do it, but now since you're paying for it and doing it, you have the control of the way you want it laid out.
And to stress that regardless, that's gonna get paid for, whether we do it through this means or it's done through other means, it's, the money's the money, it's spent.
Right.
Whether we're the conduit or someone else is, that still happens.
So we did have a conversation with the developer earlier today, and he said his engineering firm was gonna be $1,700 a lot. Well, it doesn't sound like a lot. They had 112 houses laid out for it. So 1,700 times 112, that was gonna be $190,400 for the same work that's gonna be roughly 55. This is the benefit of working with somebody who's 11 miles away and not 111 miles away. So I think whether we decide to move forward once we have all the information or not, we need to have this for future of our community.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion for acceptance for the engineering and service proposal as presented.
I move that we accept engineering/surveying services proposal from Moten Associates by title only.
We have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and second. Jan, if you would, roll call vote.
Is that Bob?
Yep.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy?
Yes.
Nathan Conklin,
Yes.
Tim Heiss?
Yes.
Tito Frias.
Yes.
Thank you, Mike, I appreciate it. Code enforcement.
Well, before he leaves, what do you need from us? Do you need Chad to sign it and send it to you?
I'll just need either an authorization signature or just your, motion that you approved.
Perfect. Cool. And can you guys get started on this week?
Sure.
Perfect. I wasn't expecting that. Yes. All right.
84% confident.
Yeah, it's only Monday, right?
I'm just timing out the 12 weeks. I'm like, well, when would we have this potentially back? So, all right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mikey.
The code enforcement ordinance update, do we have any updates?
I met with Nate last week.
Honestly, I don't know how I get anything else done with everything I'm doing here.
We met last week.
Last Wednesday.
And basically, I went over, I think that, it looked like I had everyone's
Copies.
copies of what you did. And it looks like it's just a matter of tightening up the time frame. So what I'm in the process of doing is going through Indiana statute to make sure that we can tighten up. I think in most of the cases, I think that as long as we adhere to, allowing the due process of hearings and that type of thing with, I believe, the Board of Works, which is our overseeing board, I think that we're good, but I'm just checking to make sure. So that's where we're at on that.
House condemnations. Do we have any update?
I'm striving to, by the next meeting, have hard dates for each of the condemnations that I've filed with the court. So
Hard dates as in terms of hearing in the court?
Yes.
Excellent.
And I'll let you know what those dates are.
That would be great, and we could want to announce those, because anybody that wants to attend is welcome to attend.
Yeah, it's public.
And so, so, I mean, it wouldn't hurt, I don't think, for maybe us to have a contingency in the court, because they need to hear from a broader spectrum of folks as to kind of the jeopardy that we are put in when it's it's not moved upon in a quick fashion from the county standpoint. Not casting any blame in any direction, they just want them to feel our pain. Because I know there's a number of citizens I could have at that court that would, by golly, voice their opinion, because they're kind of had their fill of what they've had to deal with. So thank you, Ryan, appreciate it. So April 26th, we'll be looking for that. New business, resolution,
Well,
and this,
before we get
Yes.
to business, I remembered there was one more thing.
Yeah.
I talked to Keith Payne at ARHI Building and Remodeling. He has everything he needs from Moten Associates. He has stated he believes he can have stakes in the ground by the next council meeting, and I'm hoping that he will be here in person to address us with a design layout and say, here's what we're building. You'll have 2 of them at X date. So, Jen, can you tentatively put Keith Payne on the schedule for next meeting?
oh yeah, by the way, put Jim Dubinsky on the schedule for next meeting also,
Put a time
for a state on here these days, sorry. So, getting back to where our first public hearing, what it was regarding, the resolution 2021-R-05, which is the blight grant match resolution. As Kent stated, we need to adopt this resolution for the Oprah grant that we're pursuing. Are there any questions, comments regarding that resolution? And if not, I would entertain a motion for acceptance.
I'll move we accept resolution 2021-R-05, blight grant match resolution by title only.
We have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Jan, if you would, we'll call the vote.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy,
Yes.
Nathan Conklin,
Yes.
Tim Heiss,
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
Very good.
Just one comment on that. That sort of also implies that we're authorizing a match. Were we eventually to?
If we were to receive the grant.
Right.
Correct.
So we're kind of engaging
We're-
some funds.
Yeah, with our presumption, we'll still have to,
But they
yeah, we'll go through that.
Potentially
but-
come back and partially fund us, and then it'll only be a percentage of that.
It will
So-
never be more than 10%.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one thing we do have guaranteed. But yeah, we won't know the exact amount until we get word, which we hope there is an amount. And hopefully it is the max, but at least a portion thereof. A good question. Ordinance 2021-05, which is the ordinance to establish the ARP fund. As I mentioned, I will read this just for sake because it's unfamiliar to a lot of folks. An ordinance to establish the ARP Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Grant Fund, which is fund number 176, being ordained by the Common Council of the City of Union City, Indiana. The Common Council of the City of Union City, Randolph County, Indiana recognizes a need now exists for the establishment of the ARP Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Grant Fund pursuant to Indiana Code 511. The sources of funding for the newly established fund will include funds allocated to the city from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. The monies within this fund shall be used for eligible purposes of the ARPA. Funds receipted into this fund will require an additional appropriation, i.e. Common Council approval, and the fiscal officer, i.e. Jan, will review the requested use of funding along with the city attorney for compliance with ARPA requirements. The fiscal officer will also maintain detailed accounting records of the fund to provide for future audits of the ARP fund. So, and then be it further ordained that if you guys would approve this, which, here's the crux, you have to approve it if we're gonna receive the funds. This is one of those deals where you don't have a choice. You either approve it, you receive the $720,000, or you do not, and have to answer everybody else at the community tomorrow.
I move we accept ordinance 2021-05, ordinance to establish the ARP fund by title only.
Do we have a first? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Jan, if you would, roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy,
Yes.
Nathan Conklin,
Yes.
Tim Heiss,
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
All right, moving along.
Do we
Ordinance
need-
20, yes, I'm
Do we
sorry.
need to suspend the rules and?
Yes, thank you. Yes. Yes,
I'll
sorry.
move,
15 months in, I'll figure this out eventually.
Yeah.
I'll I'll move we suspend the rules.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a first and second. All those in favor of suspending the rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The rules have been suspended. I would hereby entertain a motion for a second approval of ordinance 2021-05.
Go ahead.
I can do it again?
Yeah.
I move that
Well,
we approve ordinance 2021-05 ordinance to establish the ARP fund.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second this one.
We have a second. Jan, if you would, roll call vote once again.
Brandon Elmore.
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Nathan Conklin.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
Thank you, Nate. You saved me being throttled by Jan because she asked me earlier about getting this rule suspended. So, excellent. Now, ordinance 2021-06, which is the ordinance to establish the Vision Corner Fund. Now, the cool thing about this, no, I'm not asking for any funds from the city into this fund. What I'm asking for is this fund to be created because we were very blessed last week to receive $250,000 from the county toward Vision Corner. We had a video presentation which we will show. In fact, shame on me, but it's probably a good thing because of the length of this meeting anyway. We will show the video presentation at their next meeting for Vision Corner so everybody can see what has been put together. It's really cool. It's a project that it continues to grow and grow in terms of its depth and breadth between Ball State, the school, and now the county with Randolph County United with the possibilities there. In a nutshell, we need to make sure we have a fund set up to where as these funds come in, that it's got a fund to go into. That's as simple as that. The beauty of what Dave K.I.S.S with K.I.S.S Consulting is applying for right now, we will be hearing back probably in the next month or so regarding RBDG. And then also the grant that he's applying for, which is the Rural Community Development Initiative Grant, I think is what it's called. It's a long one.
That's correct.
It's a $500,000 grant that's a 50-50 match. And when he first pitched this to me at the end of last year, I was like, oh, 50-50 match. I was like, at the time I was trying to raise money for a rail tower, and I couldn't even dream of raising $250,000. I was like, okay, I like it, but let's put that on the back burner and let's concentrate on all these others if we can. And then we got this. And so these monies from the county, because they believe in this project, because this project can drive, this isn't about Union City, this is about driving the county forward. This is how we've got to think in terms of thinking more globally, and in fact the region for that matter. And so now that we have that, that's our match. We can utilize those funds for match. And so that's a beautiful thing. So as these monies come in, this is simply to be able to slot them in there so it keeps it nice and clean. That's set aside for this project and nothing else. And so there you have it. Any questions for either Mr. K.I.S.S or myself? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move we accept ordinance 2021-06, ordinance to establish Vision Corner Fund.
We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
Bring it by here. Jane, if you would, roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore.
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Nathan Conklin.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
Awesome, and so it was,
Oh, you want to suspend?
that'd be great.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
We have a motion to
I'll second.
suspend the rules. We have a first and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The rules have been suspended. I would hereby entertain a motion for ordinance 2021
I'll move we accept ordinance 2021-06, ordinance to establish Vision Corner Fund on the second reading. I
Excellent. We
neglected
have
to
a
say the
first.
first reading. Sorry.
That's all right. We have a first, we have a
By
second.
title only.
I'll second.
We have a first and second. Jan, if you would, roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore.
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Nathan Conklin.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, rail tower construction agreement, bill of sale. You should have in your packets the rail tower construction agreement and bill of sale. I'll just repeat myself. And so, and that basically is I'm asking for approval from the council just to make this official and legit and keep everybody know for approval to sign that agreement. It's basically just accepting the property from CSX, which gives us the ability to move it with Wolf Movers. Do we have any questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion for approval.
I move that we approve the CSX Transportation Incorporated, CSX Transportation Incorporated, rail tower construction agreement and bill of sale by title only.
Do we have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Who's that, Bob?
Yeah, it was Bob. Jan, I'm so sorry, would you do roll call vote one more time,
We
please?
got Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Nathan Coughlin.
Did our attorney look this over? Because it's 10 pages long.
It's really complex.
I've sent it for, but it's the rail tower agreement.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it looks okay to me.
So, yeah, so I mean,
All right.
there's, yeah, it's,
Then we continue, yes.
yeah.
Tim Height.
Yes.
Peter Brady.
Yes.
Yeah, Wolf Movers is our big agreement that, they're the ones that have to meet all the guidelines that CSX has.
I was gonna say, I would assume it's their
Yeah.
$10 million of liability insurance.
Yes, exactly, because we're not moving it.
And the cool thing is they've done it time and time again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they asked Chad who is moving it, they said Wolf House Movers, and they went, "Oh, okay, no big deal."
Yeah, because they were moving one in New Hampshire. They go, right now, we have 2 towers that are getting moved, one here in Indiana and one in New Hampshire,
Yeah.
which one here in Indiana.
And Wolf's doing
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, so, and Wolf Movers is doing both, so
Yeah.
that was reassuring.
Wow.
And this is CSX, this wasn't Burlington or Norfolk or, you know, so there might be other towers getting moved, but they're not CSX property.
And that's pretty impressive in that Wolf is really more local to us than they are,
Yeah.
you know,
Very
they're,
much so.
so where are they
Fort
from?
Wayne,
Yeah, Fort Wayne.
yeah,
So, you know, to be in New Hampshire, that's,
yeah. It's, well, they're a global company,
Yeah.
they,
They've got some cool technology.
yeah, mercy. Lastly, Resolution 2021-R-06, which again was our second public hearing, that is the additional appropriations resolution. We have vetted this out previously, so if there's no further comments or questions, I would entertain a motion for that resolution.
I'm sorry,
Sorry. go
you
ahead.
lost me. I'm sorry, where are we?
I'm sorry, Resolution 2021-R-06, this is regarding the additional appropriations, which was the second public hearing.
It wasn't on your original agenda, but I handed it
It's
off
a new
to you.
printout sitting at your desk.
Oh,
There you go, Tim.
yeah.
oh, I see. And it's for the repairs to the
Park.
park,
Additional appropriations for the park, yeah.
Okay.
What's wrong?
Well, Tito reads that over. I'm curious. Did we lose our student reps?
No, and I do not, usually I get updates from them when they're not here, and I didn't get an update tonight, so,
I'm sure Hunter's playing baseball somewhere.
yeah.
It's 100%.
So, but I will send a text and remind them of the next council
Just make
meeting.
sure everything's all
Yeah,
right.
no, yeah, I don't think we've offended them or scared them off.
Yeah.
No, good question.
No further questions, I'll move we accept resolution 2021-R-06, additional appropriations.
We have a first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
That was Bob.
Okay.
Yep.
And if you would, go ahead and one last time.
Brandon Elmore,
Yes.
Bob Leahy.
Yes.
Nathan Coughlin.
Yes.
Tim Height.
Yes.
Peter Freitas.
Yes.
All right, do we have any visitors wishing to address the council at this time? If not, the next city council meeting will be Monday, April 26th at 6 p.m. The date of the Board of Works, Public Works meeting will be Monday, also April 26th at 1 p.m. I would hereby entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a first, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
This is my sign too, hopefully.